Hi everyone, and we are back with another chapter of Percy Jackson and the Battle of Labyrinth. We are gaining speed so fast, I cannot comprehend how fast this book is going to end. But the chapters are longer, so the videos get longer. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel before we dive into the book. I love to read, and this is my way of keeping count of books that I haven't read. This is since I've started this, I read, literally just read and react, and slowly I would advance into other ways of how I can read a little and react a bit more. But since this is going on, we are going to continue until the series is over. So let's get started with chapter 15. I hope they find Tyson and Grover. It has been scary and I'm worried. And I hope they find Pan, really. Chapter 15. We steal some slightly used wings. This way, Rachel yelled. Why should we follow you? Annabeth demanded. You led us straight into that death trap. It was the way you needed to go. And so is this. Come on, Rachel said. Annabeth didn't look happy about it, but she ran along with the rest of us. Rachel seemed to know exactly where she was going. She whipped around corners and didn't even hesitate at crossroads. Once she said duck, and we all crouched as a huge axe swung over our heads. Then we kept going as if nothing had happened. I lost track of how many turns we made. We didn't stop to rest until we came to a room the size of a gymnasium with old marble columns holding up the roof. I stood at the doorway listening for sounds of pursuit, but I heard nothing. Apparently, we'd lost Luke and his minions in the maze. Then I realized something else. Mrs. O'Leary was gone. I didn't know when she'd disappeared. I didn't know if she'd got lost or been overrun by monsters or what. My heart turned to lead. She'd saved our lives and I hadn't even waited to make sure she was following us. Ethan collapsed on the floor. You people are crazy. He pulled off his helmet. His face gleamed with sweat. Ethan, you're a half-blood. Get your ass together. Annabeth gasped. I remember you. You were one of the undetermined kids in Hermes' cabin years ago. He glared at her. Yeah, and you're Annabeth. I remember. What happened to your eye? Ethan looked away and I got the feeling that was one subject he would not discuss. You must be half-blood from my dream, I said. The one Luke's people cornered. It wasn't Nico after all. Who's Nico? Never mind, Annabeth said quickly. Why were you trying to join up the wrong side? There's no right side, Ethan sneered. The gods never cared about us. Why shouldn't I sign up with an army that makes you fight to the death for entertainment? Gee, I wonder, Annabeth said. Ethan struggled to his feet. I'm not going to argue with you. Thanks for the help, but I'm out of here. We're going after Daedalus. Come with us. Once we get through, you'd be welcomed back to camp, I said. You really are crazy if you think Daedalus will help you. He has to, Annabeth said. We'll make him listen. Ethan snorted. Yeah, well, good luck with that. I grabbed his arm. You're just going to head off alone into the maze? That's suicide. He looked at me with barely controlled anger. His eye patch was frayed around the edges, and the black cloth was faded, like he'd been wearing it a long, long time. You shouldn't have spared me, Jackson. Mercy has no place in this war. Then I ran off into the darkness, back the way we'd come. Annabeth, Rachel, and I were so exhausted we made camp right there in the huge room. I found some scrap wood and we started a fire. Shadows danced off the columns, rising around us like trees. Something was wrong with Luke, Annabeth muttered, poking at the fire with a knife. Did you notice the way he was acting? You look pretty pleased to me, I said, like he'd spend a nice day torturing heroes. That's not true. There was something wrong with him. He looked nervous. He told his monsters to spare me. He wanted to tell me something. Probably, hi Annabeth, sit here with me and watch while I tear your friends apart. It'll be fun. You're impossible, Annabeth grumbled. She sheathed her dagger and looked at Rachel. So, which way now? Sacagawea? See, I know that. The only pronunciation I know correctly, it's because of Night in the Museum, the movies. Rachel didn't respond right away. She'd become quieter since Arena. Now, whenever Annabeth made a sarcastic comment, Rachel hardly bothered to answer. She'd burned the tip of a stick in fire and was using it to draw ash figures on the floor, images of the monsters we'd seen. With a few strokes, she caught the likeness of a dracane perfectly. We'll follow the path, the brightness on the floor. The brightness that led us straight into the trap? Annabeth asked. Lay off her, Annabeth. She's doing the best she can. Annabeth stood. The fire's getting low. I'll go look for some more scraps while you guys talk strategy. And she marched off into the shadows. My god, it's like two jealous people just won't tell each other how they feel. Oh my god, this is such entertainment. And oh my god, I sound just like Aphrodite. And that's just several types of wrongs. Rachel drew another figure with a stick, an ashy Antaeus dangling from his chains. Annabeth's usually not like this, I told her. I don't know what a problem is. Are you sure you don't know? Rachel raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? Boys, totally blind, she muttered. Hey, don't you get on my case too. Look, I'm sorry I got you involved in this. No, you were right, she said. I can see the path. I can't explain it, but it's really clear. She pointed towards the other end of the room into the darkness. The workshop is that way, the heart of the maze. We are very close now. I don't know why the path led through that arena. I'm sorry about that. I thought you were going to die. She sounded like she was close to crying. Hey, I'm usually about to die. Don't feel bad, I promised. Imagine being so close to death. He's so used to that it's fine. It's like every day it happens, like blah blah, and the sword is right on my neck, and it's nothing. It's literally nothing. It happens like twice a day, but I survive. Look at me. No scratch or anything. Just a little bit of singe here, a bit of a stab there, a bit of a scratch here. It happens. It happens to everyone, doesn't it? That is an awkward laugh. Why did I narrate that? She studied my face. So you do this every summer? Fight monsters, save the world? Don't you ever get to do just, normal stuff? I had never really thought about it like that. The last time I'd had something like a normal life had been, well, never. Half-bloods get used to it, I guess. Or maybe not used to it, but I shifted uncomfortably. What about you? What do you normally do? I paint. I read a lot, Rachel shrugged. Okay, I thought. So far we are scoring a 0 on the similarities chart. What about your family? I could sense her mental shields going up, like this was not a safe subject. Oh, they're just, you know, family. You said they wouldn't notice if you were gone. She set down her drawing stick. Wow, I'm really tired. I may sleep for a while, okay? Oh, sure. Sorry if. But Rachel was already curling up, using her backpack as a pillow. She closed her eyes and lay very still, but I got the feeling she wasn't really asleep. A few minutes later, Annabeth came back. She tossed some more sticks on the fire. She looked at Rachel, then at me. I'll take the first watch. You should sleep too, she said. You don't have to act like that. Like what? Like, never mind. I lay down feeling miserable. I was so tired I fell asleep as soon as my eyes closed. In my dreams, I heard laughter. Cold, harsh laughter, like knives being sharpened. I was standing at the edge of a pit in the depths of Tartarus. Below me, the darkness seethed like inky soup. So close to your own destruction, little hero, the voice of Kronos chided. And still you are blind. The voice was different than it had been before. It seemed almost physical now, as if it was speaking from a real body instead of whatever he'd been in chopped up condition. I have much to thank you for, Kronos said. You have assured my rise. The shadows in the cavern became deeper and heavier. I tried to back away from the edge of the pit, but it was like swimming through oil. Time slowed down, my breathing almost stopped. A favor, Kronos said. The Titan Lord always pays his debts. Perhaps a glimpse of the friends you abandoned. The darkness rippled around me, and I was in a different cave. Hurry, Tyson said. He came barreling into the room. Grover stumbled along behind him. There was a rumbling in the corridor they'd come from, and the head of an enormous snake burst into the cave. I mean, this thing was so big, its body barely fitted through the tunnel. Its scales were coppery, its head was diamond shaped like a rattler, and its yellow eyes glowed with hatred. When it opened its mouth, its fangs were as tall as Tyson. It lashed at Grover, but Grover scampered out of the way. The snake got a mouthful of dirt. Tyson picked up a boulder and threw it at the monster, smacking it between the eyes, but the snake just recoiled and hissed. It's going to eat you, Grover yelled at Tyson. How do you know? It just told me run. Tyson darted to one side, but the snake used its head like a club and knocked him off his feet. No, Grover yelled, but before Tyson could regain his balance, the snake wrapped around him and started to squeeze. Tyson strained, pushing with all his immense strength, but Snake squeezed tighter. Grover frantically hit the snake with his reed pipes, but he might as well have been banging a stone wall. The whole room shook as Snake flexed its muscles, shuddering to overcome Tyson's strength. Grover began to play the pipes, and stalactites rained down from the ceiling. The whole cave seemed about to collapse. I woke with Annabeth shaking my shoulder. Percy, wake up. Tyson's in trouble, I said. We have to help him. First things were first. Earthquake, she said. Sure enough, the room was rumbling. Rachel, I yelled. Her eyes opened instantly. She grabbed her pack and the three of us ran. We were almost to the far tunnel when the column next to us groaned and buckled. We kept going as 100 tons of marble crashed down behind us. We made it to the corridor and turned just in time to see the other column toppling. The cloud of white dust billowed over us and we kept running. You know what? I like this way after all, Annabeth said. It wasn't long before we saw light up ahead, like regular electric lighting. There, Rachel said. We followed her into a stainless steel hallway. Like I imagined they'd have a space station or something. Fluorescent lights glowed from ceiling. The floor was a metal grate. I was so used to being in the darkness that I had to squint. Annabeth and Rachel both looked pale in the harsh illumination. This way, Rachel said, beginning to run. We're close. This is so wrong, Annabeth said. The workshop should be in the oldest section of the maze. This can't. She faltered. We'd arrived at the set of metal doors inscribed in steel at eye level was a large blue Greek delta. We're here, Rachel announced. Daedalus' workshop. Annabeth pressed the symbol on the doors and they hissed open. So much for ancient architecture, I said. Percy, seriously, not when Annabeth is angry, please. Annabeth scowled. Together we walked inside. The first thing that struck me was the daylight. Blazing sun coming through giant windows. Not the kind of thing you expect in the heart of a dungeon. The workshop was like an artist's studio, with 10-meter ceilings and industrial lighting, polished stone floors and workbenches. A spiral staircase led up to second-story loft. Half a dozen easels displayed hand-drawn diagrams for buildings and machines that looked like Leonardo da Vinci sketches. Several laptop computers were scattered around the tables. Glass jars of green oil, Greek fire lined one shelf. There were inventions too, weird metal machines I couldn't make sense of. One was bronze chair with a bunch of electrical wires attached to it, like some kind of torture device. In another corner stood a giant metal egg about the size of a man. There was a grandfather clock that appeared to be made entirely of glass, so you could see all the gears turning. And hanging on the wall were several sets of bronze and silver wings. The Immortales, Annabeth muttered. She ran to the nearest easel and looked at the sketch. He's a genius. Look at the curves on this building. And an artist. These wings are amazing, Rachel said in amazement. The wings looked more advanced than the ones I'd seen in my dreams. The feathers were more tightly interwoven. Instead of wax seals, self adhesive stripes ran down the sides. I kept my hand on Riptide. Apparently, Daedalus was not at home, but workshop looked like it had been used recently. The laptops were running their screensavers. A half-eaten blueberry muffin and a coffee cup sat on the workbench. I walked to the window. The view outside was amazing. I recognized the Rocky Mountains in the distance. We were high up in the foothills, at least 150 meters, and down below a valley spread out, filled with a tumbled collection of red mesas and boulders with spires of stone. It looked like some huge kid had been building a toy city with skyscraper-sized blocks and then decided to knock it over. Where are we? I wondered. Colorado Springs, a voice said behind us. The Garden of the Gods. Standing on the spiral staircase above us, with his weapon drawn, was our missing sword master, Quintus. Quintus, you little piece of... You, Annabeth said. What have you done with Daedalus? Trust me, my dear, you don't want to meet him. Quintus smiled faintly. Look, Mr. Traitor, she growled. I didn't fight a dragon woman and a three-bodied man and a psychotic sphinx to see you. Now where is Daedalus? Quintus came down the stairs holding his sword at his side. He was dressed in jeans and boots and his counselor's t-shirt from Camp Half-Blood, which seemed like an insult now that we knew he was a spy. I didn't know if I could beat him in a sword fight. He was pretty good, but I figured I would have to try. You think I'm an agent of Kronos? That I work for Luke, he said. Well, duh, said Annabeth. You're an intelligent girl, but you're wrong. I work only for myself, he said. Luke mentioned you, I said. Garyon knew about you too. You've been to his ranch. Of course. I've been almost everywhere. Even here, he said. He walked past me like I was no threat at all and stood by the window. The view changes from day to day, he mused. It's always someplace high up. Yesterday it was from a skyscraper overlooking Manhattan. The day before that, there was a beautiful view of Lake Michigan, but it keeps coming back to Garden of the Gods. I think the Labyrinth likes it here. A fitting name, I suppose. You've been here before, I said. Oh, yes. That's an illusion out there? A projection or something? I asked. No, Rachel murmured. It's real. We're really in Colorado. Quintus regarded her. You have clear vision, don't you? Remind me of another mortal girl I once knew. Another princess who came to grief. Enough games. What have you done with Daedalus? Quintus stared at me. My boy, you need lessons from your friend on seeing clearly. I am Daedalus. The book is not over. The chapter is not over yet. I'm just too shocked. I'm hanging on to my imaginary pearls. I'm too shocked. Why am I shocked? I kind of knew that, didn't I? At the back of my head, I kind of knew that Quintus could be Daedalus. Why was I in shock again? Maybe I needed an excuse to put down a book. No, that doesn't sound like me at all. There was a lot of answers I might have given from I knew that to liar to yeah, right, and I'm Zeus. You know what, Percy? We're in the right state of mind together. The only thing I could think of was, but you're not an inventor, you're a swordsman. I am both, Quintus said, and an architect, and a scholar. I also play basketball pretty well for a guy who didn't start until he was 2000 years old. A real artist must be good at many things. That's true. Like, I can paint with my feet as well as hands, Rachel said. You see, a girl of many talents, Quintus said. But you don't even look like Daedalus, I protested. I saw him in my dreams, and suddenly a horrible thought dawned on me. Yes, you finally guessed the truth, Quintus said. You're an automaton. You made yourself a new body. Percy, Annabeth said uneasily. That's not possible. That can't be an automaton. Quintus chuckled. Do you know what Quintus means, my dear? The fifth in Latin, but this is my fifth body. The swordsman held out his forearm. He pressed his elbow and part of his wrist popped open, a rectangular hatch in his skin. Underneath, bronze gears whirred. Wires glowed. That's amazing, Rachel said. That's weird, I said. You found a way to transfer your animus into a machine, Annabeth said. That's not natural. Oh, I assure you, my dear, it's still me. I'm still very much Daedalus. Our mother, Athena, makes sure I never forget that. He tugged back the collar of his shirt. At the base of his neck was the mark I'd seen before, the dark shape of a bird grafted to his skin. A murderous brand, Annabeth said. For your nephew Perdix, I guessed. The boy you pushed off the tower. Quintus's face darkened. I did not push him, I simply made him lose his balance. Let him die, I said. Quintus gazed out of the windows at the purple mountains. I regret what I did, Percy. I was angry and bitter. But I cannot take it back, and Athena never lets me forget. As Perdix died, she turned him into a small bird, a partridge. She branded the bird's shape on my neck as a reminder. No matter what body I take, the brand appears on my skin. I looked into his eyes and I realized he was the same man I'd seen in my dreams. His face might be totally different, but the same soul was in there, the same intelligence and all the sadness. You really are Daedalus, I decided. But why did you come to camp? Why spy on us? To see if your camp was worth saving. Luke had given me one story. I preferred to come to my own conclusions. So you have talked to Luke? Oh, yes, several times. He's quite persuasive. But now you've seen the camp, Annabeth persisted. So you know we need your help. You can't let Luke through the maze. Daedalus set his sword on the workbench. The maze is no longer mine to control, Annabeth. I created it, yes. In fact, it is tied to my life force. But I have allowed it to live and grow on its own. That is the price I paid for privacy. Privacy from what? The gods. And death. I've been alive for 2 millennia, my dear, hiding from death. Okay, between us, it just feels weird to call Quintus Daedalus after so much. It really does. But how can you hide from Hades? I mean, Hades has the Furies, I asked. They do not know everything, or see everything. You have encountered them, Percy. You know this is true. A clever man can hide quite a long time, and I have buried myself very deep. Only my greatest enemy had kept after me, and even him I have thwarted. You mean Minos, I said. Daedalus nodded. He hunts for me relentlessly. Now that he is a judge of the dead, he would like nothing better than for me to come before him, so he can punish me for my crimes, after the daughter of Coclus killed him. Minos' ghost began torturing me in my dreams. He promised that he would hunt me down. I did the only thing I could, retreated from the world completely. I descended into my labyrinth, decided this would be my ultimate accomplishment. I would cheat death. I've heard this before. I was about to make a point, but I had to finish the sentence. And then the point just slipped away from me. It just disappeared. The point vanished. Oh, yeah, I remember a bit. That makes Daedalus an introvert, or worse, a wallflower. And I don't know, I relate to that. And I don't think that's a good thing. Not in this context. In every other context, hell yeah. And you did, Annabeth marveled. For 2,000 years. She sounded kind of impressed, despite the horrible things Daedalus had done. Just then a loud bark echoed from the corridor. I heard the ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump of huge paws, and Mrs. O'Leary bounded into the workshop. She licked my face once, then almost knocked Daedalus over with an enthusiastic leap. There is my old friend, Daedalus said, scratching Mrs. O'Leary behind the ears. My only companion all these long, lonely years. You let her save me. That whistle actually worked, I said. Daedalus nodded. Of course it did, Percy. You have a good heart. And I knew Mrs. O'Leary liked you. I wanted to help you. Perhaps I felt guilty as well. Guilty about what? That your quest would be in vain. What? But you can still help us, Annabeth said. You have to. Give us Ariadne's string to Luke so Luke can't get it. Yes. The string. I told Luke that the eyes of a clear-sighted mortal was the best guide, but he did not trust me. He was so focused on the idea of magic item, and the string works. It's not as accurate as your mortal friend here, perhaps, but good enough. Good enough. Where is it? With Luke, Daedalus said sadly. I'm sorry, my dear, but you are several hours too late. With a chill, I realized why Luke had been in such a good mood in the arena. He'd already got the string from Daedalus. His only obstacle had been the arena master, and I'd taken care of that for him by killing Antaeus. Cronus promised me freedom. Once Hades is overthrown, he will set me over the underworld. I will reclaim my son Icarus, and I will make things right with poor young Perdix. I will see Minos' soul cast into Tartarus, where it cannot bother me again, and I will no longer have to run from death, Quintus said. That's your brilliant idea? Annabeth yelled. You're going to let Luke destroy your camp? Destroy. Wait, Annabeth is angry. That's your brilliant idea? You're going to let Luke destroy our camp, kill hundreds of demigods, and then attack Olympus? You're going to bring down the entire world so you can get what you want? Annabeth yelled. Your cause is doomed, my dear. I saw that as soon as I began to work at your camp. There is no way you can hold back the might of Kronos. That's not true, she cried. I'm doing what I must, my dear. The offer was too sweet to refuse. I'm sorry. You're not sorry. Annabeth pushed over an easel, architectural drawings scattered across the floor. I used to respect you. You were my hero. You built amazing things. You solved problems. Now, I don't know what you are. Children of Athena are supposed to be wise, not just clever. Maybe you are just a machine. You should have died 2000 years ago. Instead of getting mad, Daedalus hung his head. You should go warn your camp. Now that Luke has the string. Suddenly, Mrs. O'Leary pricked up her ears. Someone's coming, Rachel warned. The doors of the workshop burst open and Nico was pushed inside, his hands in chains. Then Kelly and two Lystrigonians marched in behind him, followed by the ghost of Minos. He looked almost solid now, a pale bearded king with cold eyes and tendrils of mist coiling off his robes. He fixed his gaze on Daedalus. There you are, my old friend. Daedalus's jaw clenched. He looked at Kelly. What is the meaning of this? Luke sent his compliments, Kelly said. He thought you might like to see your old employer, Minos. This was not part of our agreement, Daedalus said. No, indeed. But we already have what we want from you, and we have other agreements to honor. Minos required something else from us in order to turn over this fine young demigod. She ran a finger down Nico's chin. He'll be quite useful. And all Minos asked in return was your head, old man. Daedalus paled. Treachery. Get used to it, Kelly said. Nico, are you okay? I said. He nodded morosely. I'm sorry, Percy. Minos told me you were in danger. He convinced me to go back into the maze. You were trying to help us? I was tricked. He tricked all of us, he said. I glared at Kelly. Where's Luke? Why isn't he here? The she-demon smiled like we were sharing a private joke. Luke is busy. He's preparing for the assault. But don't worry. We have more friends on the way. And in meantime, I think I'll have a wonderful snack. Her hands changed to claws, her hair burst into flame, and her legs turned to their true form, one donkey leg, one bronze. Percy, the wings, do you think? Wait, Rachel whispered. I'm very sorry. Percy, the wings, do you think? Get them. I'll try to buy you some time, I said. And with that, all Hades broke loose. Annabeth and I charged at Kelly. The giants came right at Daedalus, but Mrs. O'Leary leaped to his defense. Nico got pushed to the ground and struggled with his chains while the spirit of Minos wailed. Kill the inventor! Kill him! Come on, Minos, do something yourself. Rachel grabbed the wings of the wall. Nobody paid her any attention. Kelly slashed at Annabeth. I tried to get to her, but the demon was quick and deadly. She turned over tables, smashed inventions, and wouldn't let us get close. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Miss O'Leary chomped her fangs into a giant's arm. He wailed in pain and flung her around, trying to shake her off. Daedalus grabbed his sword, but the second giant smashed the workbench with his fist, and the sword went flying. A clay jar of Greek fire broke on the floor and began to burn green flames, spreading quickly. To me, spirits of the dead, Minos cried. He raised his ghostly hands and the air began to hum. No! Nico cried. He was on his feet now. He'd somehow managed to remove his shackles. You do not control me, young fool, Minos sneered. All this time I have been controlling you. A soul for a soul, yes. But it is not your sister who will return from the dead. It is I, as soon as I slay the inventor. Spirits began to appear around Minos, shimmering forms that slowly multiplied, solidifying into Cretan soldiers. I am the son of Hades. Be gone, Nico insisted. Minos laughed. You have no power over me. I am the Lord of Spirits, the Ghost King. No, I am. Nico drew his sword. He stabbed his black blade into the floor and it cleaved through the stone like butter. Never. Minos' form rippled. I will not. The ground rumbled. The windows cracked and shattered to pieces, letting in a blast of fresh air. A fissure opened in the stone floor of the workshop, and Minos and all his spirits were sucked into the void with a horrible wail. The bad news, the fight was still going on all around us, and I let myself get distracted. Kelly pounced on me so fast I had no time to defend myself. My sword skittered away, and I hit my head hard on the work table as I fell. My eyesight went fuzzy. I couldn't raise my arms. Kelly laughed. You will taste wonderful. She bared her fangs, then suddenly her body went rigid. Her red eyes widened. She gasped. No, school, spirit. And Annabeth took a knife out of the imposa's back. With an awful shriek, Kelly dissolved into pale vapor. Annabeth helped me up. I still felt dizzy, but we had no time to lose. Mrs. O'Leary and Daedalus were still locked in combat with the giants. I could hear shouting in the tunnel. More monsters were coming towards the workshop. We have to help Daedalus, I said. No time. Too many coming, Rachel said. She'd already fitted herself with the wings and was working on Nico, who looked pale and sweaty from his struggle with Minos. The wings grafted instantly to his back and arms. Now you, she told me. In seconds, Nico, Annabeth, Rachel, and I had fitted ourselves with coppery wings. Already, I could feel myself being lifted by the wind coming through the window. Greek fire was burning the table and furniture, spreading up the circular stairs. Daedalus, come on! He was cut in 1,000 places, but he was bleeding golden oil instead of blood. He had found his sword and was using part of a smashed table as a shield against the giants. I won't leave Miss O'Leary. Go, he said. There was no time to argue. Even if we stayed, I wasn't sure we could help. None of us know how to fly, Nico protested. Great time to find out, I said, and together the four of us jumped out of the window into open sky. I'm not going to defend Quintus or Daedalus at all, mostly because he was a dum-dum and he didn't think, and he had the audacity to think that Kronos was going to hold up the end of his bargain. Like, who are you talking to, Daedalus? With all the history and the story of Kronos? Did you really think that? And also, seriously, props to Annabeth for thinking smart. And Nico, you did a wonderful job, you little child. I know I was a bit pissed at you, but I totally understand why you did all of that. and it was easy to be manipulated when you were vulnerable. So, yeah, you were fantastic. Annabeth was, she's a gift of God, no doubt in that. Percy, you are one lucky guy. And Rachel works so fast and so smart. And I don't know why, but I have a feeling that Rachel might be the next Idalis, and I do not like that idea. No. This is going to be very weird. Also, I do hope that Grover and Tyson are fine and they find Pan. Also, the earthquake happened. Clearly, we know why that happened. If you don't know, it's because of what happened with Tyson and Grover. It was kind of the empathy link and the dream kind of thing. And Cronus was being a little B word. We can discuss all of that, but we need to start the next chapter, and that starts right after this. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.